For centuries, the greatest minds of our time were left scratching their heads over some of history's most baffling enigmas. With countless research and studies, we finally uncovered the secrets to some of the most baffling mysteries in human history, from the secrets of the pyramids to a mysterious ancient script. Here are 16 ancient mysteries that were finally solved. If you like this kind of content, subscribe to our channel. It's free. Now let's get started. Number 16. How were the pyramids created and what was their purpose? The Great Pyramids of Egypt are one of the most iconic archaeological wonders in the world, but these structures are also the most mysterious remains of ancient Egyptian civilization. Why were they built? And how have experts answered these questions in recent years? Recent studies suggest that the ancient Egyptians might have harnessed the power of the Nile to build the pyramids. Long ago, the ancient Egyptians used a combination of water channels and simple yet ingenious hydraulic lifts to move the colossal blocks of stone into place. It was still a dangerous task, but with 20,000 to 30,000 people the pyramids were completed. But why go to all the effort? You see, the ancient Egyptians were deeply spiritual, and their beliefs about the afterlife and the cosmos were intrinsically linked. Scholars believe that the pyramids were meant to be staircases for the pharaohs to reach the heavens and a monument to house the tombs of their kings. However, even with this mystery solved, more questions remain about this great civilization. Number 15. What is the secret behind the largest ancient building material? The Pantheon in Rome is the largest unreinforced concrete dome. This entire structure was built without the aid of steel, but it stands strong today. The secret of Roman concrete, a material so durable that structures built from it last for millennia. The secret of Roman concrete, a material that has puzzled scientists for centuries, but has now finally been deciphered. Researchers have discovered the ancient recipe that allowed Roman structures to stand the test of time. Unlike modern concrete, which typically uses select lime, the Romans mixed their concrete at high temperatures using quicklime. This method created tiny lime blocks. Tiny brittle particles within the concrete were initially thought of as imperfections, but it turns out they are actually crucial due to the resilience of the material. When cracks formed in Roman concrete, these lime particles would react with water, dissolving and recrystallizing as calcium carbonate. This heals the cracks and prevents further deterioration of the structure. It's no wonder many of Roman creations still stand to this day. Number 14. What is the purpose of these mysterious holes in the ground? If you look around NASA's Peru region, you might notice spiral-shaped holes lined up in the ground for years. The purpose of these holes was a mystery until scientists finally figured out what they were. Are you ready? It turns out that these holes were part of an incredibly sophisticated hydraulic system designed to bring water to one of the driest places on Earth. These are known as puccio and are strategically designed to take advantage of underground aquifers. The spiral shape of these structures allowed the folks at NASA to channel wind into the tunnels, creating pressure that would help draw water up from deep below. This ingenious method allowed them to access a reliable water source in a region where rainfall is almost non-existent. Number 13. The secrets of Egyptian mummification. There were over 70 million mummies in Egypt, so it's no surprise that ancient Egypt and mummification are often mentioned together. However, despite the countless Egyptian mummies we've discovered, the process these remains go through to achieve incredible preservation remained unknown for years. One of the clues that shed light on the mystery behind mummification is a 4000-year-old mummy discovered in Saqqara, Egypt. It turned out that the ancient Egyptians used oils and resins, some of which came from as far away as Southeast Asia, to make a mixture with both antibacterial and antifungal properties that ensured that Egyptian mummies were preserved for millennia. Number 12. The Sailing Stones of Death Valley. In the harsh environment of Death Valley are stones that seemingly move by themselves. They are known as the sailing stones. What is confusing is that some of these stones weigh up to 700 pounds, and yet they slide across the dry lake bed of the racetrack, leaving long trails in the cracked mud. Cameras were placed in the desert to watch these stones move over a time lapse. In fact, they somehow slide across the desert without a single living thing moving them. So what is the answer to this strange phenomenon? The key to this enigma was discovered by a team of researchers in 2014. When the temperature drops at night, a thin layer of water freezes on the plate, forming layers of ice. As the ice melts, the rocks slide past each other thanks to the breeze that blows in the desert throughout the day. This phenomenon is so subtle that it is possible that people have witnessed the movement of the rock without realizing it. Number 11. 819 days. The mystery of the Mayan calendar. Our calendar has 365 days in a year, however. On the 366th day in a leap year, the Mayan civilization used a different calendar, one that has 819 days. For decades, scholars struggled to decipher the exact workings of the Mayan calendar and its meaning. The breakthrough came through the combined efforts of archaeologists, epigraphers, and astronomers studying antiquity. It turns out that Mayan inscriptions and the Cote de los Antiguos track the movement of celestial bodies in 819 days over 45 years. Basically, the Mayans decided to use an 819-day calendar to correctly predict all the movements of the visible planets. Number 10. 50,000-strong Persian army that disappeared without a trace. Kususesku was the second king of kings of the Eight Empire, known as the Great King of Persia, king of countries and other great titles. His influence was immense, and that is why in 525 BC Kususesku had enough power to send an army of 50,000 men into the Egyptian desert. The Persian king wanted to destroy the Oracle of Amun in the Siwa oasis, and yet this formidable army disappeared without a trace, as if they had been swallowed by the desert sand. Their fate remained unknown until 2009, when a team of researchers led by Italians, brothers Angelo and Alfredo Castiglioni, found remnants of the lost army while exploring near Siwa. It turns out that the desert swallowed 50,000 of them. A sandstorm known as Xim buried the entire army in a matter of minutes, leaving no survivors and covering all evidence with layers of sand. Number 9. What caused the Tunguska event on June 30th, 1908? A massive explosion somehow leveled over 800 square miles of forest in a remote part of Siberia near the Tunguska River. The blast was so powerful that it knocked people hundreds of miles away and produced shock waves that encircled the Earth. And despite the devastation, no impact crater was ever found. It is likely that a meteorite crashed and caused an explosion, but somehow not a single trace of it was ever found. So for years, the culprit behind this wreck remained a mystery. However, the answer turned out to be quite simple according to this theory. A space rock, probably a small asteroid or comet, only about 320 feet in diameter, entered Earth's atmosphere at high velocity, and as it descended, the intense pressure and heat caused the object to explode in the air, releasing energy equivalent to 10 to 15 megatons of TNT, which is about 1,000 times more powerful than the Hiroshima atomic bomb. And with this, the object simply disintegrated in the atmosphere, leaving us without a single trace of what caused the Tunguska event. Number 8. How was Stonehenge built? Stonehenge, the prehistoric monument in England, has long been one of the world's greatest archaeological mysteries. It may look like nothing more than stones laid on top of one another, but for centuries people have speculated about its purpose and how the massive stones, which weigh up to 25 tons, were transported and arranged more than 4,500 years ago. Now, thanks to recent advances in archaeology and technology, we are finally beginning to unlock Stonehenge's secrets. Researchers determined that the largest stones that make up the iconic ring were quarried from Westwoods, a site about 15 miles away from the monument. But perhaps even more fascinating is the discovery that the smaller bluestones that are arranged in the inner horseshoe were transported from the Prelly Hills in Wales, almost 150 m away. In addition, archaeologists discovered that Stonehenge was used for many things, serving as a place for religious rituals, social gatherings, and astronomical observations. Number 7. King Tutankhamun's strange dagger. King Tutankhamun's dagger has intrigued historians, archaeologists, and the public since its discovery in 1925 inside the young pharaoh's tomb. Unlike other artifacts, this particular dagger stood out for its extraordinary craftsmanship and unusual composition. The blade made of iron presented a mystery because it predated the widespread use of iron by several centuries. How did this advanced material end up in the possession of an Egyptian pharaoh who ruled over 3,300 years ago? For decades, scholars were puzzled by the dagger, especially since iron smelting was not common in Egypt until much later. The dagger's origins sparked numerous theories, including the possibility that the iron was of extraterrestrial origin. It wasn't until recent advancements in technology, specifically X-ray fluorescence analysis, confirmed this theory. Analysis revealed that the iron used in King Tut's dagger contained a high concentration of nickel and cobalt elements normally found in meteorites. This groundbreaking discovery confirmed that the dagger was crafted from meteoritic iron, a material revered by the ancient Egyptians who regarded meteorites as gifts from the gods. This also explains why the dagger shows no signs of rust or decay. Unlike other iron objects from that time, iron from meteorites is naturally resistant to corrosion, giving the dagger its near-perfect preservation. Issue 6. The mystery behind the Worcester trembling hand. In the 13th century, a scribe with incredibly shaky handwriting authored a variety of manuscripts. Today, this condition is one of the greatest mysteries in history. In fact, it is now known as the Worcester trembling hand. What a title! But who was this mysterious figure, and what motivated him to leave his mark on so many texts? For years, the identity of the trembling hand remained a mystery, with little more than his unusual handwriting to offer clues. The scribe left behind hundreds of glossed explanatory notes added to the margins of texts on a wide variety of manuscripts housed in Worcester Cathedral before his works encompassed both Old English and Latin texts, which he translated and annotated, making him one of the first and most prolific scholars to bridge the linguistic gap between the Old English and Middle English periods. Issue 5. The Lost Hanging Gardens of Babylon. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon are one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, but their existence has baffled historians and archaeologists for centuries. The Garden of Babylon is described as a marvel of engineering and beauty. It was a terror oasis, filled with exotic plants built in the heart of ancient Mesopotamia. But there's one big problem. No definitive archaeological evidence has ever been found in Babylon to confirm its existence. So where is this elusive paradise? Did it even exist in the first place? Just when scholars were about to dismiss the existence of the Hanging Gardens as a myth, research revealed something quite surprising. Perhaps the Hanging Gardens of Babylon could not be found simply because we were looking in the wrong place, rather than in Babylon. It seemed that the Hanging Gardens might not have been located in Babylon, but rather in the city of Nineveh, some 300 m to the north. Researchers suggest that the gardens were actually built by the Assyrian king Sakib, not the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar-Seku, who is traditionally credited with their construction. According to experts, Sakib's palace at Nineveh contained an intricate system of aqueducts and canals that could have supported a wonderland. Garden inscriptions found at Nineveh also speak of a garden that used advanced hydraulic engineering to draw water from the nearby Tigris River to irrigate a series of terraces. This description closely matches accounts of the Hanging Gardens provided by ancient Greek historians, leading them to believe that later writers may have confused Nineveh with Babylon. So it seems that the key to finding the lost gardens of Babylon is simply to look elsewhere. Number 04. The Atlantis of the Sands. The Kingdom of Ubar, also known as the Atlantis of the Sands, has been one of the most enduring legends in the history of the Arabian Peninsula. For hundreds of years, many have been trying to find this lost kingdom that was said to be buried beneath the sands of the vast Rub al-Khali Desert. This kingdom was believed to be a prosperous national settlement. According to legend, Ubar was a prosperous trading center that controlled the lucrative incense trade and accumulated great wealth until it was suddenly and mysteriously swallowed by the desert. But what if this ancient city was just a myth? Recent discoveries show that this kingdom is not just fiction. In the late 20th century, a team led by British explorer Sir Reno Fiennes and archaeologist Dr. Juris Zarin used NASA satellite imagery to search the Empty Quarter, the world's largest continuous sand desert. Their search led them to a site in Oman known as Shishir, where they discovered the ruins of what many believe to be the legendary city of Ubar. What they found were traces of a large, fortress-like structure in an intricate system of underground water tunnels. Everything discovered at the fortress supported the idea that it was once part of a frankincense trade route. But how did this thriving kingdom disappear? Geological studies indicate that Ubar may have collapsed due to the depletion of its water resources. As the underground water table dropped, the city's supporting structures could have collapsed, causing the fortress to fall into a sinkhole. Thus, the entire fortress disappeared overnight, and the mystery behind the Atlantis of the Sands came to an end. Number 03. Mayan writing. For centuries, the dense jungles of Central America were thought to be impenetrable, untouched by human hands. So imagine how surprising it was when people discovered the ruins of a civilization right in the heart of the jungle. This great civilization not only left behind the Great Pyramids, but also left behind sophisticated writing. All of these writings were left behind by the Mayan civilization that flourished around 2000 BC until the 16th century AD. The discovery of Mayan writing itself was groundbreaking after all. Who would have thought that a civilization in the middle of the jungle would be able to establish such majestic structures, let alone an entire writing system? Over a millennium ago, the ancient Mayans developed a writing system so complex and sophisticated that it baffled even the greatest scholars. The development of Mayan writing, also known as glyphs, began as early as 300 BC. And flourished during the classical period. This script was logosyllabic, meaning it combined symbols representing words together with syllables. This dual nature made the script incredibly versatile, but at the same time made it complicated. Imagine a single word that could be written in multiple ways, sometimes as a single symbol and other times as a series of syllables. For example, the word Balaam, which means jaguar, could also be written with a single jaguar symbol or split into syllables ba-lama. The thing is that deciphering the script could lead to great progress and learning more about this great civilization that was established in the middle of nowhere. Needless to say, deciphering the script was no easy task, and it wasn't until the mid-20th century that anyone made significant progress when Yuri Nurov came along, who many claim as a maverick scholar today. The Ukrainian-born Russian linguist is now regarded as the man who single-handedly cracked the Mayan code. Thanks to him, we can read around 80% of the Mayan glyphs with reasonable accuracy, and most of what we know about the Mayan civilization is all thanks to this. Although some mysteries remain, particularly surrounding the grammar and some of the more obscure glyphs, but for the most part, the mystery of Mayan writing is largely solved. Number 02. The Rosetta Stone. In 1799, during Napoleon's campaign in Egypt, a group of French soldiers discovered a large slab with mysterious inscriptions, scripts that were used as building material, and if so, our progress in deciphering Egyptian hieroglyphics could be rudimentary to this day. The Rosetta Stone contained a decree with 3 scripts: Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, Demonic script, and Ancient Greek. The stone dates back to 196 BC. It contains a decree praising the king's achievements, including his support for temples and his successful military campaigns. At that time, we knew nothing about hieroglyphics, but scholars could already read ancient Greek. Through this, scholars managed to decode ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Today, the Rosetta Stone resides in the British Museum, where it remains one of the most visited artifacts. Number 01. The first dinosaur fossils. Have you ever wondered what the first person who discovered a dinosaur fossil thought? After all, they weren't aware that huge creatures existed millions of years ago. That's how the mystery of dinosaurs was solved. For centuries, people have discovered huge bones underground, and many of them are stumped as to what they are. After all, people back then didn't know dinosaurs existed. Many of them believed they had discovered bones of giant humans or monstrous creatures. What we know today as fossils are often misinterpreted or attributed to biblical creatures or the remains of mythical beings. In 1677, a British naturalist named Robert Plot stumbled upon something extraordinary, a large fossilized bone that today rests in the Ashmole Museum in Oxford. Robert was compiling a natural history of Oxfordshire when he discovered this huge bone. The timing was impeccable. Given his profession, Robert studied the fossil and described it in his book, Natural History of Oxfordshire. In his book, he theorized that it could belong to a giant human, or possibly an elephant brought to Britain by the Romans. The idea that this could be the bone of an ancient reptile, let alone a dinosaur, never even crossed his mind because the concept of dinosaurs simply did not exist. Still, the discovery of the plot laid the foundation for what would eventually become the field of paleontology. The bone fragment he described is now recognized as the femur of Megalosaurus, a theropod dinosaur that lived about 166 million years ago. But it was not until much later in 1824 when William Buchan formally described the Megalosaurus based on more complete fossil evidence that the creature was identified as a dinosaur. And that is how the mystery behind the giant fossils ended. Now, a fun fact about William Buckland: this person loved animals so much that he wanted to eat them all, from crocodiles to hedgehogs. In fact, he even tried to taste the 140-year-old mummified heart that belonged to King Louis XIV of France, and some say he actually ate part of it. It took him centuries, and he was an incredibly dedicated geologist to get us to fully learn about dinosaurs. We've reached the end of this video. Tell us what you think in the comments box. If you liked the video, give it a like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss future videos like this one. See you next time.